You're watching Charter California Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. Glad you're with us. In the first part of our program, we're going to be speaking with Randy Gordon. He is the president and CEO of the Long Beach Chamber of Commerce. Let's just say this man knows Long Beach, one of the largest cities in California, almost 500,000 residents. And in the race to take the United States House, it is ground zero. For the Democrats to take back the House, they would need to win 25 seats. And there is a race going on in the Long Beach area that is right in the thick of it. The two candidates that made it out of the primary election were Alan Lowenthal, a member of the California State Senate, and Gary DeLong, a member of the Long Beach City Council. Mr. Lowenthal had served on the Long Beach City Council, but they never overlapped. I happen to know both of them, and I know they're actually great friends. I mean, I've seen them together, and you can see there's a real camaraderie between the two of them, which is oh so very nice. But I want to talk to, let's call him the metaphoric mayor of Long Beach. His name is Randy Gordon. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you for inviting me.
So talk to me about this district. It is, I think it's almost 60% Long Beach, almost 40% or over 40% Orange County.
Well, to be specifically, it's 53% Long Beach. It's 42% Orange County.
You mean 58% Long Beach?
No, it's 53% Long Beach.
Okay.
It's 5% Avalon and incorporated areas.
Okay.
And then it's 42% Orange County.
Got it.
So it's a very interesting race. It's going to be very close. I'll predict right now between 1 to 2% margin of victory.
Now, it's interesting you mentioned Avalon. That's Catalina.
Right.
Do the candidates get over to the island? I mean, if it's going to be a close race, you'd think you'd want to get over there.
Well, I know that Mr. DeLong's been over there. I don't know about Alan Lowenthal, but there's a few hundred votes over there. And in a race this close, a few hundred votes could make the difference.
And I want to talk about the fact that you consider this race close. Generally speaking, if you look at the numbers, it would seem to be a lean Democratic seat. The numbers do favor the Democrat, but you're not alone, sir, when you say this could be a close race. And I think that many folks believe it could be close because Mr. DeLong he's running as a moderate Republican. Right. During his time on the city council, he has managed as a moderate Republican. Is that fair, sir?
Yes, he is a moderate Republican. And what's interesting about, they both have served, Gary served for almost 6 years now. Alan served for 8 years. So it's interesting, this is a Long Beach race. And it's interesting that neither one of them have really been involved in Orange County. But Gary has recently become a lot more involved.
He's going to have to.
And he has a lot of endorsements there. He has all five Orange County supervisors. So what happens is Orange County has 42% of the vote. And the reason I think it's going to be close, if the Orange County Republicans, which he'll get a strong measure of that vote, if they come out and vote, it could be very close. And the moderates, or the decline to state, I should say, it's about 20%.
What's also interesting is in the primary, Mr. Lowenthal got, I think, 34% of the vote. Mr. DeLong came in second with around 29%. I mean, that's pretty close.
Well, the other thing, too, keep in mind, though, Alan was 34% and Gary was 29%. But Gary had a much more formidable Republican candidate competition in Steve Kuykendall. So Steve Kuykendall,
who
who's
had
a former
been a congressman.
Yes, and also a state assembly member. So Alan did not have the competition, in all due respect, as Gary did in Steve Kuykendall.
But I do want to talk about the Lowenthal name.
Sure.
So Alan Lowenthal is a state senator. His ex-wife and still friend, Bonnie Lowenthal, is a state assemblywoman. Suja Lowenthal, their former daughter-in-law, is a member of the Long Beach City Council.
Right.
Their son is a judge serving in this area. Bonnie's now husband had run for the Long Beach City Council, was not successful. Suffice it to say, the Lowenthal name is extremely well known.
Well, Lowenthal has never lost an election in Long Beach. Now, as you know, the Chamber's endorsed Gary DeLong, so, okay, I'm wishing that a Lowenthal will finally lose an election here. But the bottom line is the Lowenthal name is well known, and George McMason said once, tongue-in-cheek, he said, if you want to win an election in Long Beach, you got to change your name to Lowenthal, because the bottom line is Lowenthal has not lost an election.
So what do you make of that brand, the Lowenthal brand, which is so interesting in that technically speaking, the Lowenthals who are in office aren't really related to each other anymore. I mean,
well,
Alan and Bonnie and Suja technically aren't related to each other.
First of all, Brad, let's call a spade
right.
here. The brand and the name is because all the unions in the entire region, the state, every Lowenthal who's ever run for office has had a tremendous amount of support from unions. And that has obviously helped them win a lot of elections.
Aside from the unions, just the brand name. I mean, are they Kennedys as it relates to Massachusetts?
No.
Are they Bushes as it relates to Texas or Florida?
Not even close. But what happens is when you've won 4 or 5 elections and you've got 3 or 4 Lowenthals all winning, eventually that name ID gets out there.
I got to ask you, do you think the average voter knows that Bonnie is an ex-wife, that Such is an ex-daughter-in-law?
No.
Do you think they think they're all still one big happy I mean, they're our friends, but one family?
No, I don't think the average voter knows any of that. I really don't think so. I think the average voter, at least 80% of them, are going to vote party lines.
Right. Well, it's always the middle 20%.
Right,
We know that.
And that's what's going to win this election. If you ask me what's going to win, that's what's going to win this election.
We also know that it's highly likely that President Obama will carry California, the nation we don't know yet. And we've talked about what's known as kind of the Obama bump. Mm-hmm. How does that play in this race, the 47th Congressional District?
I think it plays a little bit, but I think what plays even more so is the fact that the Paycheck Protection proposition, you could probably tell me which proposition that is.
It's going to be keep talking as I find it.
Well, that proposition will bring out a heavy Democrat vote. So I think even more so than the Obama bump in California.
Prop 32.
Prop 32 it's all about taking the unions. The unions would have to have permission from the union members before they take their money for political purposes.
Corporations as well.
Right. But the unions are going to spend millions of dollars to make sure that's defeated. And they're going to drive voters to the polls. They're going to drive all union members, and there'll be a ton of that.
But more importantly, in my mind, is what will the national parties do? Will the Republican campaign, Congressional Campaign Committee support Mr. DeLong financially? Will the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee support Mr. Lowenthal financially?
The answer is yes to both. Now, ironically, as we speak today, Gary DeLong just got the endorsement of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It happened today. Okay. So what's going to happen? He's already one of the young 14
What is it called?
Young guns.
Right.
There's 14 of them. These are 14 races across the United States that they believe the Republicans can take.
Let me ask you this. Again, we both know Gary, just a nice guy, I mean, solid guy. But what I hear on the streets is, I don't necessarily have a problem, and these are from kind of moderate to left voters. I don't really have a big problem with Gary. I like what he's done. I could vote for him, but my concern is he goes back to Washington and is part of a Republican majority that is much more right-wing than I am as a moderate California citizen. How does he get over that hump? I've talked to Gary about it.
Well, if Alan Lowenthal wins, how does he get over that he's not part of this Senate majority liberal left?
You mean congressional?
Congressional,
right,
yeah.
Right.
The congressional liberal left. I think both have that. But the difference is Gary is not right. He's not a Tea Party guy. He's a very moderate guy.
But that's the challenge. And I just want to get a sense from you is that if you look at the Republican National Party, it's a lot more conservative than the California moderate Republican voter.
That's true.
And so I've asked Gary. He said he will vote his conscience, and if voters don't like it, they can vote.
And I believe he will. You know, once you win a congressional seat, you almost never ever lose that seat. It's a seat for life. So it's not like you need your party's tremendous help.
Although I think
to
that
get
this
elected
seat could jump back and forth. I mean, it is a swing seat.
Well, it could because I think the winner's going to be 1% to 2%.
Yeah.
But if you take a look at history, very, very rarely does a congressional seated member ever lose.
Randy, I want to thank you so much for joining us. You must come back later on in the year, and we'll talk about some of the propositions. There will be, it looks like, 11 on the ballot. And his name is Randy Gordon. He is the president and CEO of the Long Beach Chamber of Commerce. My name is Brad Pomerance. We'll be right back on California Edition.
Pursuant to the 2010 census, which state gained the most seats in the United States House of Representatives? Arizona, California, Florida, or Texas? Texas gained 4 congressional seats. Florida gained 2. California did not gain or lose seats. New York and Ohio lost 2 seats each.
It's California edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Glad you're with us. Two guests today, special guests, Tom Stolpman and Juliana Guerriero. They are lawyers like I am, I'm not sure what to say, but they're practicing lawyers. They're doing good for society, and they are involved in a very important organization. I remember the organization from my days as a lawyer. It's called the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles, and we mean Los Angeles in the grandest sense, the greater Los Angeles area. What is the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles, Juliana?
The Legal Aid Foundation is one of the oldest and the largest frontline law firm, assisting over 2 million individuals. Essentially, these are individuals that are low income, in poverty, within Los Angeles County.
So essentially, this organization provides pro bono services, meaning free legal services for those in need. Is that right, Tom?
Yes, and it's important because if without a lawyer, a person is lost in the court system. There are just too many rules and procedures, and to have a lawyer there to advocate for you is so important, and that's without legal aid, there's this huge safety net that doesn't exist.
This is not a public defender. This is not someone assisting with criminal matters per se, is that right?
No, this is things like landlord-tenant disputes, family law matters, issues about living conditions, things about unfair conditions in housing.
Right. And I know that your focus, Juliana, is on workers' comp. And in fact, your work with legal aid has played right into your practice.
It has. Workers' compensation is supposed to be an efficient benefit delivery system, but it does not always work that way.
No, it does not.
So I've had a number of clients that I've had to refer to legal aid to assist them when they don't have any money to pay their rent,
Right.
They're facing eviction, and it's a safety net, exactly like Tom said.
And Tom, you're one of our state's top trial lawyers. You were the state bar president, 15 years ago. So you know about the important benefits of legal aid. Tell me about them from that perch up high.
Well, the perch up high is only as high as somebody else would put it, because as a lawyer, we have an obligation to the administration of justice. And if we don't support legal aid and we don't make sure that there is legal representation for those who can't afford it, whether low income, moderate income, then we're failing in our obligation that we took an oath to preserve the administration of justice.
We don't hear that often enough. Lawyers are easily bashed in the media, but I know as someone who practiced law that there really is a heart and soul to the legal profession. And that is especially true given that on August 18th is the Long Beach Grand Cru. The event is coming up. It is the 18th annual Long Beach Grand Cru. Tom, why don't you tell us about this special event? You have brought us some wine from your very own vineyard. You have brought some glasses from the Long Beach Grand Cru.
Well, the Long Beach Grand Cru started as a way to raise money for legal aid services here in Long Beach, and has grown under the leadership of Ludmilla Montoya,
who's in the audience. We thank you, Ludmilla.
And what the event is actually two-pronged. On the one hand, we have the event on August 18th, which is attended by 1,200 or so people. At Rainbow Lagoon.
1,200 people.
And the reason that they come is some of them come to support legal aid, but most of the people come because of the incredible food and wine that they're able to get. And most of the wines that are poured that night are the award winners from the other prong of the Grand Cru, which is the International Wine Competition, in which we have over 1,500 wines being judged this year, and they're still coming in, so we'll have more by the time the event starts in 2 weeks. And those award-winning wines are poured for the guests at the public event. And we also have wineries like Stolpman, where we'll be pouring our wines for people to taste as an opportunity to participate and to help legal aid.
So in addition to the fact that you happen to be a vintner yourself, why have you chosen this event? There are a lot of great legal aid organizations, a lot of great events. What touches you about this event?
Well, what originally touched me about it was that it involved food and wine.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And
Lawyers eat.
And then the other aspect of it was that it was here in Long Beach.
Right.
And it was, and through the years we've been able to negotiate with LAFLA to direct a lot of the funds from this event back to the greater Long Beach area, and to make sure that people here are being provided with the services that they need.
Juliana, what about you? Why legal aid? Why this event?
Well, one of the main reasons I got involved is because the founding partner of my firm, Marilyn Green, has been a founding board member. And I see the impact that it makes in my clients' lives on a daily basis. It really is a very important service, and we've been impacted tremendously by the downturn in the economy.
Right.
So this is a fundraiser for legal aid, and it's an amazing way where you can go and enjoy wonderful wine and food and support a wonderful cause.
Well stated.
And the funds are very, very desperately needed.
So how can we go? Come on.
Well, we
I
can
wanna
go to our website, longbeachgrandcrew.com.
And crew is C-R-U.
Crew. That's a French word that
not
means
crew.
a vineyard. Yeah.
Right.
A crew is either a vineyard or a blend of wines. And at the website, longbeachgrandcrew.com, one can order tickets or can arrange to be a sponsor. A sponsor buys a table and receives special benefits. And it's what most businesses who participate in this do so because it's such a great networking opportunity to invite clients to something that's during the summer. It's in the evening. In Long Beach, the weather is cool down by the ocean, and people can have a great time and have a chance to meet in a very convivial, if you will, atmosphere.
Well stated. I like that LSAT word. Tell me more about your specific involvement. What are you doing with the event?
Well, this year I have the privilege to be the chair of the event.
Oh, just the chair.
And one of the things that Tom did not mention is that with table sponsorship, you also get wine. And there are different levels of sponsorship. So there's the bronze, the silver, the gold, and it goes up from there. And at the entry level, bronze level, you get a case of medal-winning wine. So that's quite an incentive to sponsor a table.
And as a wine geek, it's really neat because my firm sponsors every year, and we end up with wines from around the world that I never would have gotten a chance to try, except for the fact that these wineries supported legal aid by entering their wines in the competition.
So are you the grand poobah of the event, or what's your...
No, I've been involved with the board for many years. I chair the competition committee, so I work with Ludmilla and Dan Berger, our chief judge, in making sure... Well, I make sure that I know what Ludmilla is doing, basically.
She's not drinking all the wine in the back
No.
room.
Ludmilla is magical for this event, and one of the great opportunities for people is also to volunteer, because we put this together with volunteers, and we have hundreds of volunteers who...
Is there still time to volunteer?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And if people go to the website, I'm sure there's a way to get in touch with Ludmilla.
I want to digress very briefly. Tell us about your vineyard. It's Californian.
Right. We're in the San Ynez Valley. We have...
Which is Central California?
No, that's a bad word to us.
Not
We're the Central Coast.
Central Coast.
Santa Barbara
Paso?
County. No.
Lower.
Santa Barbara County, just about 45 minutes from Santa Barbara, near Buellton and Solvang. And we farm organically. Our wines are very naturally made. They're award-winning wines.
Even though you're involved?
Well, as I like to say, my specialty in the wine business is signing checks and loan documents.
Perfect.
But we have a great team of people, and my son Peter actually now runs the company. So he's my boss now, as well as Ludmilla being my boss, and Juliana and my wife. I have more bosses than I can count.
You are in big trouble. In our final moments, give us a sense, if you can, of one client from legal aid that's been touched, or even one story that you know of a legal aid client that really, but for legal aid, their lives would not have been where they are today.
Well, I can tell you a story of a client from my own practice. She was a school teacher in the Los Angeles area, and because her benefits were denied, she found herself getting, it was an injury where there was a lot of stress in the family, and domestic violence issues arose. And so she needed to get out of this relationship, but she didn't have any funds, and she had a small child, and legal aid was very instrumental in helping to protect her, to find her safe housing, and to help her with a restraining order and child custody issues.
It's that simple. I mean, these are real people facing real problems, needing real legal advice, and that is why legal aid is so very important. I know it. I used to be a practicing lawyer. I know from legal aid, and I thank you for being so involved in such an important organization in the greater Los Angeles area. And I cannot wait for August 18th, the Long Beach Grand Crew. You can go to their website, longbeachgrandcrew.com. Juliana, Tom, thank you so much, and thank you for bringing these props and wine. My name is Brad Pomerance. Thank you for watching Charter California Edition.
According to an American Bar Association study, what percentage of low and moderate income households experience a legal problem each year? 10, 25, 40, or 45%? According to an American Bar Association study, at least 40% of low and moderate income households experience a legal problem each year.
Welcome to Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Our guest, a very special professor from UC Riverside. Her name is Goldberry Long. She teaches creative writing, and in 2012, she was the winner of UC Riverside's Innovative Teaching Award. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What does that mean?
That means that I'm very flattered.
Of course, of course.
It means that I spend a lot of time thinking of ways to teach students that reach them, and to go, I try very hard to go beyond the customary ways that people are used to being taught.
Who gave you this award?
The Academy of Distinguished Teachers.
Of UC Riverside.
Right.
So your colleagues have picked you as their star. Exactly, blush away.
I couldn't possibly
Yeah,
say.
blush away. Why do you think they selected you? What did they see? What can you tell us that you're doing that all of our aspiring professors and current professors can do?
I am teaching a very large class that is customarily taught as a very small class.
It's Introduction to Creative Writing.
Yes. And normally that class is taught to about 20 students, and I teach it to 270 students.
Why is that? Is that because of budget cuts these days, or what's happening?
Well, yes, budget cuts, of course. Everybody at UCR is teaching a larger class, and the students are experiencing massive class size growth. But also because we wanted to reach as many students as possible in the creative writing department, and the Introduction to Creative Writing class was creating a bottleneck. We could only reach as many students as there could be 20 student classes.
Sure,
taught.
of course. And as I understand it, this class is considered a general education course.
Yes.
So you will teach students from all disciplines.
Yes.
So tell me about what you're doing. I know you recently taught a program to your colleagues called Making the Big Class Small.
Yes.
Explain that program.
Well,
Well, in 7 minutes and 15 seconds.
right, let's see if I can make this succinct. Traditionally, the model of teaching a large class is that the guru gets
Which is you.
which is me, gets up in front of the class and holds forth with great
Right.
elocution and
Right.
grandeur on a subject in which he or she has expertise, and the students sit quietly and take notes and are very passive, and then they're tested on it later.
Right.
The problem with that model is that students learn what they do. And if you ask yourself what they're doing in that classroom, what they're doing is listening and taking notes. So what are they learning to do in that class?
Listen and taking notes.
The problem is that most people, myself included, have a very hard time doing the exact same thing for an hour and a half, especially if it's very passive.
Right.
And so what happens is students' attention, and there are a lot of studies to back this up, tends to waver and to move in and out, and they retain a very tiny percentage of what they're actually hearing. In addition to...
Even if they're writing?
Yes. Even if they're writing. And a lot of students have not been taught how to effectively take notes anyway. But have you ever had the experience where you're taking notes and you don't even really know what you wrote down?
No, it's just kind of a stream that goes right through.
Exactly. So what
Although writing for me does make it more likely that I will retain
Right.
it.
And I'm the same way. But the other problem with that model is that that's not learning. That's dictation.
Right.
And so it doesn't mean that they know how to apply that knowledge, or how to build on that knowledge, or how to create something new from that knowledge.
So what do you do when you have 270 students when you're supposed to have 20? What did you tell your colleagues?
Well, the first thing that I do is have a lot of TAs, which helps me tremendously.
Sure.
I have 6 TAs, so that enables me to have a bit of flexibility in terms of grading and things like that. But the thing that I decided was primarily important is that I wanted my students to do a lot of writing. Because if students learn what they do, then
Of course.
they need to write. And the problem with most curriculum models is that they see the size of the class as a limiting factor because they think that everything has to be evaluated. So my philosophy in my classroom is that I do not have to look at every single piece of paper that my students write.
And your TAs presumably could evaluate if necessary.
Right, if necessary. But what I do is I divide my curriculum into two streams. One of them is quantity, because if students do a lot of writing and they're really well-designed assignments, then they're going to acquire skills by the act of doing it. You know, you don't learn to run by sitting at home and listening to a tape on running. You learn to run by going out and doing it. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. And you figure out certain things as you do it.
But how do you make sure, if you are not evaluating every piece of work, that it is being done correctly?
Well, correct is a very
That's true. Especially in creative
complex
writing
term.
and in creative
Yes.
right.
So what I do is I take a very complex task, which writing is. If you think about all of the different activities that go into writing, there are a myriad of them, so many that I could fill up a whole class just talking about the many different activities. And I divide them into what I consider to be the most important ones. And my model for my class was I thought about, okay, this is an introductory class. And I talked to my students and I said, what have you done in your introductory creative writing classes in the past? These were more advanced students. And they said, oh, it was the worst class I ever took. It was awful. It was 10 weeks of terror. And the way it was designed is they spent 2 weeks writing poems, 2 weeks writing fiction, 2 weeks writing essays. And what happened was they had no idea how to do these things. It was the equivalent of saying to an introductory chemistry student, here's a lab. In this lab, you will find many chemicals and many beakers. Go in there, devise an experiment, perform the experiment, try not to blow yourself up.
Right.
And then come back to us with a paper describing what you did, and we will tell you every single way you messed up. And that's how the creative writing class was taught. So instead, I thought, why don't I do what introductory chemistry classes do? So they start with a periodic table of the elements. What's my periodic table?
What is?
So the very first thing is students have to learn how to select topics in which they are invested. And I do a lot of work on teaching them how to select a topic. It's very frightening, especially for the science majors, and they come to me pleading, please just tell me what to write about. And I say,
creative.
You can't.
That's the third word in the title of the course.
Yes, if you are not invested in what you're writing about, it's not going to come out. I tell them all of you have the ability to write something beautiful, and it is my job.
Once they find that topic, then
right. Okay. So then,
in a minute and 45 seconds,
I'll do it as quickly as I can. So then they must understand the difference between concrete and abstract, because creative writing traffics in the concrete, meaning writing which appeals to the five senses. And if they don't create writing which appeals to the five senses, then everything they do beyond that, no matter how cleanly written it is, it will not be effective. So we do a lot of work on that, and they do a lot of this. They do at least 4 or 5 writing exercises a week that are focused purely on concrete versus abstract.
I mean, you're making your course, which is a liberal arts course, into a science course in the best sense.
Yes.
In the best sense. And then as they progress.
Yes, and then it's not enough to just have a list of concrete details. We call that cataloging in writing, because then you get, he was 5'10", he had eyes of blue. It's boring. So then I teach them how to select what I call the packed detail, the carefully selected revelatory detail that suggests everything else.
As my 4th grader is taught, yummy words.
Yes. Well, not words. We're just talking
Yummy
about
descriptions.
imagery.
Yeah.
Right. We slowly work, each topic builds on the one before it. In writing, they call that scaffolding, but whatever.
You've inspired me, and I am so glad you're teaching at UC Riverside. Her name is Goldberry Long. She is the winner of the 2012 UC Riverside Innovative Teaching Award. My name is Brad Pomerance. Thank you so much for watching Charter California Edition.